Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome. Happy Friday. Guys, if you haven't noticed, we have a gentleman here who you don't normally see on the screen with us. This is Bryan Chamberland.
Bonjour.
He is a beast. You guys you are in for a treat. Okay, this is gonna be absolutely outstanding. Make sure you bring your questions, drill him as like you've never. I'm just kidding. No, just treat it like an interrogation. All right, so here's what we like to do. We like to start out, of course, with some wins on a positive note, especially in such a negative country at this point. And Bryan even knows about the negativity in the U.S. He's in Canada, but it bleeds over, right? So let's start out with some wins. So guys in the group, if you have wins, pop them in the comments, type them out. We love them. We love featuring them. And you guys, Paul, you got a good win this week?
Yeah, for sure. What is up, everybody? So this week I've been working with a business partner and we've been creating this thing for like almost a year now. And it's starting to really come together, like bringing in leads, doing its whole thing in terms of converting people. It's this whole system within High Level, which is why we promote High Level so hard, because it's such a powerful tool. But we built this whole thing in there, and now we're about ready to be able to sell it to other clients and really got the ball rolling. So I'm excited about this thing coming together finally.
Man, I just love listening to Paul talk. You know who he reminds me of, Zach?
Cool.
He reminds me of Dean Jackson speaking. You know how that presence that Dean Jackson has? Doesn't he kind of have that Dean Jackson vibe to him?
Yeah.
If you don't know who Dean Jackson is, you guys got to check out I Love Marketing. Those guys, you want to talk about beasts? And I would say that Zach and Paul are like, they're on trajectory for being like, I'd say just as cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love
absolutely.
it. That's my new win.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
well,
awesome.
Bryan, do you have any awesome wins this week that you can share?
I do. You know, it was interesting. We were talking about it earlier today, Zach. I had a student who just wasn't in a position to keep on going with the coaching. And I mean, it was rough because we were getting so close. And I think we were like one step away, but he's going to try to come back. But ultimately what that meant is that, I had a coaching spot open. And the funny thing is that a good friend of mine that I went to high school with, who's got this massive entrepreneurial itch, he's been bugging me left, right, and center. And he literally called me right after I got off this call and was like, "So how much?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, I know your scenario. You just quit your job. You want to go from scratch. You don't even have a budget for what I am. He's like, "Try me." And so I started spitting out numbers, and then he ended up setting the price. And it was like, okay, that was like actually almost triple what I was charging the other guy. But you actually gave that number to me. I'm okay with that. I'm more than okay with that. And you guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually hired Zach a few months ago, right before the big lockdowns hit and everything like that. And it was a big stretch for me because Zach's like a 10K a month coach. No, you know that. But anyway, like I dug deep and I dove into investing with Zach, and I know what that's like. I know what it feels like. So it was just interesting to kind of, typically we don't know. Yeah. And we don't always keep our students forever. Right. I mean, that's part of the journey. And so on one hand, that one event happened, and it wasn't because he didn't want to keep going. He's like, dude, like I'm literally waiting to get paid. I just finished working in this thing. I'm waiting to get paid. I haven't been paid. My uncle hasn't been paid. Nobody's been paid. So it's not that I don't want to. He's like, I'm going to be back as soon as I get paid. So it's like, okay, cool. I didn't actually lose him. It was just like, looks like it's just a month. And then it filled up with like, I was like, wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
God works in mysterious ways.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Wow.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know if my wins can beat both of those wins. My goodness, those are amazing. I will say this though, I do have a nice win that kind of has to do with High Level. last week in the inner circle, there were several people expressing confusion with high level and how frustrating it is not knowing how to do things. And as much as I try to show it and demonstrate it, it's just with tech things, for a lot of people, it's one of those things you just have to like repetitively see and do in order to learn. And so that was kind of the sentiment. And so I actually recreated and added to my high level training last weekend. And I got that thing up and running on Sunday or Monday. I got it all done. So I was really happy with that. And so anyway, that's a big win for me, because I'm like, oh, good. Now hopefully those in the inner circle will be a little bit more clear on how the software works and how to use it.
Oh my gosh. You guys are so spoiled though, man, to have this guy. I'll tell you what, like for those of you that are here, you're probably very familiar with ClickFunnels. I mean, ClickFunnels is cool, right? But you just don't know the levels that high level can go. It is so vast. Like, you know how everybody, you got a computer, you got a phone, but most people don't use those things to its fullest capability. I don't even know if we're scratching the surface or if Zach does, but I'll tell you what, I don't know anybody in the world that can do the tech that this guy does. And I think he's taken Go High Level to the highest level that it's been taken, even though there's still room to keep growing. I think Zach is literally on the cutting edge of this whole thing. So y'all are spoiled. Y'all are spoiled.
I have not paid Bryan at all in this.
I get paid to hang out with this guy. I'm speaking from the fact that I'm doing very well to have him as a partner right now, and I'm very, very excited about that. And y'all, like, dude, like, this guy is the bomb.com, and I will at the top of a mountain scream the loudest that I can to say, get Zach's coaching.
Well, I appreciate that. So, yeah. But we do want to talk about you, Bryan, because your story is fascinating. It's one of the reasons I definitely wanted to get into business with you. Just an outstanding story. So why don't we start diving in, guys? And I don't see any wins in the comments here. So please go ahead and post them. We will feature them throughout, because just shedding as much positivity as we can. But Bryan, why don't you go ahead and just kind of tell us a little bit about, where you're coming from here and how you got started on the journey.
Sure. Well, let's start with the challenge. Okay. The challenge in my life where it started was probably around the age of 7. Okay. Yeah. We're going to go that far back. I promise this won't take very long. But I literally, I was diagnosed with things like Asperger's syndrome, bipolar disorder. I was knuckled with a few mental health labels. And actually a couple of teachers right in front of me told my parents not to expect much of me. And what started there was a false belief. And they say that your programming from the age of, like just getting into the world in 7 is like so crucial. Yeah. That happened before the age of 7. I took that as the truth. And as a result, I struggled in school heavily. Socially, I struggled. And it got so bad that, like, at the age of 15 is when I started getting into drugs and alcohol. And between the age of 17 and 21, I was admitted in a hospital 3 times for drug and alcohol-induced psychosis. Wow. It's a really, really tough journey. I was addicted to everything you could think of: food, porn, 2-pack-a-day smoker, avid drinker, cocaine, crack. Every single distraction you could possibly think of, I was lost inside myself. I was a little over 300 pounds, about 100 pounds overweight or so, technically, for my height and all that kind of stuff. And it was a really big challenge. And I'll never forget the day that I got out of the hospital. It was the 3rd time. It was a little bit after the 3rd time. And while I was in the hospital, I drew pictures of what I wanted to look like. And I started to kind of like write down my goals and my dreams. And I still wrestled after I got out of the hospital, but I will never forget the day that I came home and I'm crying and I'm looking in the mirror. And I'm crying out to God. And, I didn't hear Morgan Freeman come out from the clouds or anything like that. But I did have this intrinsic, like, all of a sudden intuition that I knew I had over 500 phone numbers in my phone, not of bad people, but of people making really poor choices. And, you may have heard Stephen Covey say, you're the direct reflection of the 5 people you hang out with most. Well, I was hanging out with a lot of drug dealers and a lot of people choosing some poor things. Dude, at one point in time, I even had two butterfly knives, one to my throat, one to my stomach, and I'm still here. Very grateful that I'm still here to be able to tell the story. But I cried out to God that day, and I just knew I had to get rid of all these phone numbers in my phone. I had to get a new phone number so there were no calls going out, none coming in. And I walked into the gym the next day, and I can never forget walking in there and looking at all the people. I'm like, man, all these people look so pretty and beautiful, and they look so happy, and they're in so much good shape. I want that so bad. And so I started playing with the weights, and I'm like, man, this hurts and it sucks, and I don't want that so bad. And so I jumped on the bike, and I started, exercising, and I had this rock star coach, personal trainer, come up to me and say, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try some interval cardio? And he just gave me free advice. Such good marketing. Just gave me some free advice, right? Such good sales too. Such good marketing. Gave me some free advice, and I started doing it. And he's like, dude, why don't you just come hang out with me for, about half an hour? So I went and I hung out with him, and he's like, dude, what are your goals? And I saw this muscle mag on the desk, and it had Dwayne The Rock Johnson and a few other burly, buffly, hot dudes. And I'm like, you think that's possible? He's like, yeah, why not, dude? Let's do it. And so he hooked me up with can't remember. I think it was a 3-month package. And I don't really have a lot of money at that time. I jumped into it. And by the way, I was able to quit drugs cold turkey. I'm just backing up a little bit here. I quit drugs and alcohol and everything cold turkey. From the moment that I cut out those numbers, I quit everything cold turkey, and I started going to the gym. And I haven't really gone into this much depth before, but so much fun. So he shares all of this with me, and I end up getting this personal trainer. And this guy, his name was Jason Schott, and he looked like a modern day Mr. Clean. He was bald and buff. And I went to town on this. And for the first time in my life, I read a book from front to back. It was called Body for Life by Bill Phillips. And within 6 months, I lost over 100 pounds. Within 9 months, I was featured in a magazine. Within the year, I had studied kinetics and nutrition. I became a personal trainer, then a head trainer at one of Edmonton, Alberta's largest gyms. I was responsible for not only my schedule, but I was responsible for the schedules of other people. I had to learn marketing and sales. They enrolled us in marketing and sales courses. And dude, I all of a sudden had this epiphany. I was like, dude, I love this. This is a lot of fun. But I've always had this dream. I wanted to be a musician. I want to play guitar. I'd love to play in front of thousands of people. And that was a really kind of cool dream, right? And so I had this idea. I was like, can't be that hard. I mean, it really can't be that hard. Come on, how hard could it be to make it in the music industry? So I sold all my things, and I lived out of a little blue bag, and I became a minimalist. And I joke about how I used to live in a van down by the river and sing for my supper, and I couch surfed a lot. And I sang to a lot of bartenders. And all of a sudden, here's the thing that happened when I lost all that weight. Girls that didn't look at me before started looking at me again. So I started to have a little bit of a clouded dream all of a sudden. And I was like, dude, if I could get good enough at music, I bet you I could find a really good manager and promoter that'll hook me up with all these gigs, and y'all could hold my beer while I kiss your girlfriend kind of thing, right? And so it was a really clouded, I will admit, for a while there, I did get a little too cocky. Okay. It was confidence is one thing. And I went down a path that maybe I shouldn't have. However, I got really good at doing online campaigns. So organically you've heard of Kickstarter, you've heard of Pledge, GoFundMe, all those things. Mm-hmm. So I started doing these Pledge Music campaigns, and to the point where they were becoming wildly successful, and I was getting the attention of top 20 artists. And they were like, hey, I like what you're doing. Why don't you come do that for our band over here? You can play. You're pretty good at playing and singing. Come play for us and do some of that in the back end. So I literally helped a guy who was the last guy to get over $1 million record deal with Island Def Jam. And in 2007, 2008, he went completely bankrupt, had to start over from scratch. I was a huge fan of his. Actually, when I was going through my weight loss journey, I was listening to his music on repeat while I was on the treadmill and all that kind of stuff. And I dreamed of working with him. And I got to actually work with him. His name is Rod Black from Jet Black Stare. This was the last rock band to get over $1 million record deal. Since then, and nobody's ever gotten $1 million record deal. It turned into 360 deals. The whole music industry shifted 2007, 2008. But he was starting over from scratch. So we put together a pledge campaign, And I was really just excited about creating emotional offers and like creating something unique and creating an experience for the audience, for his already had a really good following. And we did it organically, and it did so well, it got the attention of a Canadian Idol judge. And that judge approached us to manage us. And within 6 months, we get a top 20 in country music into a whole new genre. And so I was like a marketing manager, dude. Like that's what I did, marketing and managing and putting together like packaging to get more and more opportunities, to get bigger opportunities. It was all about framing the story. And I got really, really good at that to a point where I got another opportunity to work with an award-winning registered charity, got to tour all over North America on $1 million tour bus, uplifting and empowering people using music as the vehicle. And we got to share our stories. I shared my story. It was motivational, inspirational speaking. It's completely niche. You can check it out, www.robnash.com. ROBB. Still really great friends with them. The COO was actually on my podcast recently, the Convert on Command podcast. And I loved it. I actually got to get mentored from a 3-time Emmy-nominated Hollywood media designer who's worked on iRobot with Will Smith, Blades of Glory with Will Ferrell. And it just kept on like getting better and better to the point where I'm like, dude, I've never made so much money in my life. I got married to the most beautiful girl in the world as far as I'm concerned. And you can argue me into the ground. That's mine. All mine. mine. Finding Nemo. Anyway, so I just was so and I'm so grateful. We're almost 5 years married now. We got 2 beautiful kids, and we bought a brand new house in Winnipeg at this time. But then I went through a transition, and so we went up, and we go down here because all of a sudden I get let go from this organization. It was the most. It was the most painful, but it was the most incredible thing that ever happened to me because it was the scariest thing ever. I talk about how, I was a minimalist. I could live simply, and I'm sure my wife would have been cool with it because she's an angel. But I assumed responsibility for her, and this was a month into my first son being born. A boy at the time, and a mother-in-law who's a widow, and a dog. I assumed responsibility for all of that. And I didn't know how I was going to pay for this house. I was making all of this money. I can't just walk into anywhere. I don't have an education. I just got experience and skill sets, right? Yeah. So I can't just walk into these anywhere, any old Tom, Dick, and job anywhere and be all like, hey, these guys were paying me this much. You should pay me the same. Yeah, I dare you to go and try that, right? There was no way it was going to work. And dude, it took them over a decade to build what they did. So I was like, man, how am I going to do this? Luckily, this is a whole different story. I'm not going to get too far into it, but we were able to find a really good property manager. We still have our home. We still have the asset. It's still being taken care of, but we had to move across the country and start all over. And I had to ask myself the questions, like, not just what do I do? Like for a while, I was like, God, like, why is this happening? Bad question to ask. Don't ask that question. But what and how? So what do I do next? And how do I leverage the skill sets that I currently have to be able to take things to the next level? Because there has to be, I taught this, your pain is not a punishment. It's a platform for purpose. There's got to be a purpose for this. I don't know what it is yet, but I want it. And what it forced me to do was ask myself, well, what am I really good at? How do I take the skills that I acquired over these last few years and build something beautiful? How? Yeah. Well, it forced me to ask those questions. And then I realized, dude, I spent over 90% of my time doing marketing and sales. Music was just a vehicle. It doesn't matter if you're selling toilet paper or face masks or music. It really doesn't matter what it is. It's the same thing. There's 3 simple steps to marketing and sales. One is creating a clear message that converts. The next is having a compelling offer. And the third is having a strong and seamless deliverable system that will over-deliver on both experience and expectation. And if you can do all 3 of those steps, you will be wildly successful. Now, is there some things in between to doing that properly? Absolutely, yes. But here we are today. I'm partnered with Zach with Convert on Command. Within our first 2 months, we hit our first 20K month. And we've got systems and processes right now set to scale. We are not like we have clients that are calling us. I didn't come up with this. Our clients have been calling us the Amazon of agencies. We've heard agency of agencies. We've literally had agencies come to us to clean up, especially with step 3. More times than not, whether you're an agency, you're a business, you're a coach, you're struggling with one of those 3 things in those 3 steps. And more times than not, especially for agencies, it's step number 3.
Yeah. So let's unpack that more. But before, let's get back. Man, your story is incredible.
Transformation, man. I love it.
Well, so let's, before we get into the 3-step system, because that is something that we can definitely dive into. And I agree 100% on the 3 steps. And guys, I talk about the exact same thing. And that's another reason why Bryan and I, when we started talking and conversing, it was like, what? Like we both have the same knowledge through different paths. Like that's not coincidence, right? So
parallel paths. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
we actually met through my cousin of all people.
Yeah.
You know, like how's that happen? You live in Oklahoma. I live in little old Alberta over here. You know, like
yeah, it was so crazy. He's like, I think your cousin actually messaged me. And he's like, hey, it's been a while. I know my cousin's looking for coaching, and you're the only guy I know that, and I'm like, okay.
And I could trust, because I said, like, I want a guy who's good, man. Like I created a 6-step process, and I was struggling with scaling with ads because I'm not a data-driven dude. And I realized delegation is king. And also the abyss of courses. I hate it. Like, I buy a course. Anybody feel like this before? It's like, dude, I'm about to buy this course. It's like $400, $500, $1,000, $2,000 course, but it's got everything I need, and it's that one last piece of the puzzle. Okay. And so I'm going to jump into this course, and then all of a sudden find out that there's holes in it everywhere because they can't wait to upsell me. And I'm sitting there like, I want to do that. That's supposed to be me on the other side. No, I'm just kidding.
But, by the way, everybody, I have a course. No, I'm just kidding. But what I would like to do, though, before we dive into the 3 steps of marketing, let's go back a moment. In that incredible story, so the part that I want to know is where you met your wife Heidi, and I want to know what part of your journey. When was that?
Oh, dude, that's another. I again, remember I was a speaker, so like I can talk stories forever. You got to be careful what kind of can of worms you open up here. My wife and I, while I was on my musical journey, I was actually living on the West Coast, so like Vancouver Island. And I didn't meet her there. What ended up happening is I had this song. Don't judge me. It was called Sex and Fashion. I want sex and fashion. Anyway, you can actually look it up. Calling All Wave was the band. I'm not saying that that's what I would want to preach. I would take a very different approach in my writing now, I promise. But there's a really cool EP out there. You can find like some Calling All Wave stuff, and you can hear me sing, and you can hear me play guitar. I'm not trying to sell that. I don't really like, that's a completely different chapter. But if you really want that story, you can go and check it out. But I was doing a casting call for models. My wife was a model at that time. And so I was adding a whole bunch of, like nowadays when we in marketing, we go into groups and we look for specific types of people and avatars and all that kind of stuff. Well, I was looking for really hot chicks. That was originally what I was doing. And I was just going into these groups and finding some really hot models and adding them as friends, and then just letting them know, hey, look, like we're doing a music video and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I know it sounds really greasy, but that was how we kind of connected at first. And ultimately what that led to was 7 years later, I was on a path seeking, I would say Matthew 7:8 is seeking you shall find, asking you shall receive, and knocking the door will open. Well, I was seeking God.
Yeah.
And my wife at the time was actually, she was teaching the Bible in Kona at the School of Biblical Studies. And she was actually coming back from there. And I learned about this concept of praying for your spouse. And I learned it from one of my mentors with the organization that I was with. And he talked about like how he and his little girls, this was Rob Nash was actually teaching me about how, because he's got 3 girls, he's got no boys, he got 3 girls. And he's like, every day I pray with my girls. We pray for their spouses. We pray for their husbands, like wherever they are, that they may be experiencing what they need to experience to be able to be ready for that perfect time and that perfect day that y'all meet. So he's like, whether you're having a good day, whether you're having a bad day, pray for them. Pray that if you're having a bad day, pray for them that they're having a good day. And so that's where it all kind of began. I started praying. And then all of a sudden one day I saw one of her posts and she was really open about her faith. And I was really drawn to that. And I had kind of been talking to a couple Christian gals and all that kind of stuff. And, Christian, that term can be a really tough term to listen to because all you hear is religion. I hate religion, by the way. Religion is not the gig. It's not the thing. That actually crippled me growing up in the church, is the concept of religion. For me, it's about relationship. The creator, I'm the created, and it's just about having a relationship and a conversation with my dad every day. And that's what this was. It was just like, hey, Dad, hope that, wherever she is, she's doing well. And she posted one day and I reached out to her and I'm like, man, you're really open about your faith. Like, where did that come from? And she told me a bit of her story, and one thing led to the next. And I asked her out on a date. But the funny thing is that she didn't know that I was asking her out on a date. She thought that it was just like, she didn't know what to think of it. And her friends were talking. And the funny thing is that we learned later on, she was praying for her husband. She was actually writing letters to her husband, which I actually got on my wedding day later on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And so, this was how it all kind of originated. We met actually in Airdrie, Alberta. We walked around, and we still to this day, we go to the Paul's Pizza that we went to. Yeah. We met at this Paul's Pizza place. My wife just loves pizza. And I like it too. I do. It's just at that time I was so focused on my 6-pack that I just was like, pizza, but she really, really just cracked my heart open with pizza, and we had a really good time. and we walked around the lake, and that day turned into, all of a sudden we're listening to the sermon. It was just like, it was pretty cool. And then 3 months later we got married, and here we are 5 years later with a couple of really, really cute kids. They definitely got most of it from their mom, but yeah, it's been an amazing journey. So that's how we met.
Wow. That's awesome. And I ask that because, it's just it's interesting to me to see how all of our past experiences, even the bad ones, like how they prepare us for something great. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I like to kind of, I don't know, I like to nerd out on that kind of thing for sure. So very, very cool. Hey, so guys in the group here, we do have quite a few watching. So I just wanted to, you guys, if you have questions for Bryan, feel free to pop them in the comments area. And Paul, of course, you as well. Feel free to interrupt me or whatever, and we can start diving in. But I would like to get to the marketing side here.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Bryan.
Let's do it. I just want to say D here. D is saying, beautiful story, Bryan. Very inspiring. Thank you so much, D. God bless you, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. What an honor.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's dive in. Yes. So let's see the 3 steps to marketing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you said create a clear message.
I would say marketing and sales.
Marketing and sales.
They are interjoined. You do have to separate them, but you also have to bring them together. Yeah. The 3 steps are really simple. Number 1, if you confuse, you lose. You got to create a clear message that converts. If you've never heard of StoryBrand, I want to encourage you to Google StoryBrand. You're going to learn about that. It's that Donald Miller he's a brilliant, brilliant man. Good stuff right there. Yeah. So 1, create a clear message that converts. Number 2 is you need to have a compelling offer, right? Mm-hmm. And not just compelling, it needs to be an inspiring offer. It needs to inspire. So that's where your message and your offer come together and inspire your audience to action. And then step number 3 is that you need to have a strong and seamless deliverable system that over-delivers on both experience and expectation. We all know what it's like to buy something and be wildly disappointed. And in the world of coaching and in the world of agencies, it is very churn and burn. The common thing is the churn and burn model. You need to set up systems and processes to make sure that you're able to deliver on what the desired outcome is.
Yes. So let's dive into number 1. How do you create a clear message that converts?
Ooh, my favorite method is understanding upside. That book, what is it? Breakthrough Advertising.
Breakthrough Advertising.
It's a really great book. Upside is such understanding where your avatar is at in their customer journey. You need to understand if they're unaware, if they're problem aware, if they're solution aware, if they're your product and service aware, and if they're deal ready. And if you understand that, you can frame the right message to help inspire them to where it is that they want to go. If you frame a message for somebody who is unaware, but you give them a problem-aware message or a solution-aware message, it's not going to help. And vice versa. You need to understand where they're at in their customer journey and then dive into that. I would also very highly recommend looking into Chris Rochelo, North Node Solutions, Epic Framework, Epic Formula. Copywriting with the Epic Formula is absolutely brilliant, and we've had the honor of actually working with Chris Rochelo. Within months of working together, we were able to, get him to want to hang out with us for a little bit on a couple of projects, and he actually owes us one, so I can't wait to cash it in. But absolutely love working with him, and I love his framework, the Epic Framework, from top to bottom. You got to figure out how to engage your audience, your headline. I will need to rewatch this video. D says, yes, Paul has been telling me about finding my avatar. Absolutely, D. Absolutely. So the Epic Framework, engage. Your headline needs to engage your audience. Then you need to be able to present in a way that is going to be, again, compelling. Then you need to illustrate. Everything you do from your customer journey from front to back should actually illustrate what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're offering. It needs to illustrate it very clearly. And then convert. And everybody looks at that word conversion as like cash. It's the journey to the cash. And the conversion doesn't stop after you get the deal. Yeah. Because if you've got a client, it's like getting married. It's like having a girlfriend. The work doesn't stop. It's constant micro agreements. Consistent micro agreements. That's what a conversion is. It's like everything. I've heard the guys on this show here say, a few times. You may have been nodding your head throughout this thing. Yeah. That's a micro conversion. If you can consistently throughout all of your copy, throughout this whole framework, throughout from top to bottom, I get it. I feel that. I understand. Yeah. It's going to slow. You're converting them from step to step. And that's why if you look at the back end in Business Manager, and we talk about custom conversions, we talk about that going on to the next step, optimizing for each one of those steps, converting onto the next thing, onto the next thing, onto the next thing. That needs to be consistent micro conversions. And that takes time, and there's optimization, and that it takes patience, because your chances are you're not going to get it on the first crack. Not even Zach and I get it on the first crack.
Not every time.
Data isn't not every time. Yeah, he's being modest now. Listen to him. He's right. He's really good. I know. But it's a journey, man. And it's
one thing that, and I agree, and in the Epic Story Formula is fantastic. And we've actually tested it on both like a webinar campaign as well as a simple lead gen campaign. In fact, the last coaching call we had with Chris, I asked him, I'm just like, hey, because I've only seen it applied in examples and videos from him and from his course. I've only really seen it applied to like either a small, like a low ticket item, just going from ad to sale, or going to like a webinar sale. And I've never seen it used for lead generation. So I asked him, I'm like, hey, does it work for lead gen? And he looked at me like I was a moron, and he's like, yeah. Like, why, and sure enough, we tested it on lead gen, and it works.
And it kills, man. It absolutely slays it. It is absolutely outstanding, man. And I got to tell a story too about that journey, because Zach actually built and wrote some long copy for one of of Chris's clients. And if you know Chris Rochlow, he can be how do I say this? Because if he watches this later, he might be all like, I definitely don't like you anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
No, but he's dry in his teaching. He's dry and he's quite stern. And I respect it about him. I absolutely love it about him, but he's very, very hard to impress. It's either that or he won't show it. He will not show it. And that's the Yoda in him, right? Like, I just love it. Like, it's the Yoda in him for sure. But so Zach actually goes ahead and writes this up, and we show it to him, and he's like, we're on Zoom when this is happening, so I'm actually making the face he was making. And he's like, I wouldn't change all that much about this. I was just like, that is the hottest compliment you're ever. That is like, I've never seen anybody get complimented like that. That was hot. So
I will tell you what, man, that was a nerve. I was so nervous. I was like, because for those of you that don't know, I mean, Chris Rushlow, I started my journey with AWOL Academy, and he's got a lot of his material in that business, and so I started by watching some of his stuff. Now, granted, now I have access to his full course and stuff, but before I didn't. But either way, I was always looking up to him as kind of like an indirect mentor. So when he asked me to write an ad for a project, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't get this wrong. And like, I spent so much time on that ad. And then when he wanted to see it on live with me on Zoom, right? I'm like, you don't want to just like look at this later. That's what I was thinking. And so it was so gratifying to see that he was like,
you were in the hot seat too on that one too, because I think his client was on the line with us too. So you had an audience, like you could have been torn to shreds on that one for sure. It was funny.
And the client, I was also concerned would be like, I don't like this or that, but they
you had two people there that were ready to eat them for sure.
Good word, Jack. That's awesome.
That was a lot of fun.
So creating a clear message that converts. Now, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this one, Bryan. Okay. So I agree with it 100%. But and you mention it, you just don't. So a clear message, part of it is the copy and the upside. But the upside is really key. And I would almost distinguish that as almost like separate, but included with the message, because it's also kind of the audience, right? So it's almost like audience message that converts.
Absolutely.
Clear audience to message that converts.
And that's just it. I kind of lump that all into one thing, but you need to understand your audience in order to give that clear message, right? You need to speak their language. It's like, you want to attract your wife or your husband, you gotta speak that language, y'all, to get them in there, right? So, and it's the same thing with your avatar. You gotta speak their language. You gotta understand what their biggest pain points are. You gotta understand what their biggest desires are, and that means that you really gotta dig deep and ask. Sometimes, in this 6-step process that I built, like a lot of it is like. Sometimes you got to start organically, and sometimes you got to ask questions. Sometimes you got to actually go and find. It's either you have to find them, or if you're really doing the right thing. Here's the thing: like mission, vision, values. Zach, if we can for just a second. Okay, so for us, we built our business based on mission, vision, values. One is that we're here to help rock star entrepreneurs and business leaders with that champion mindset, to ignite passion into their profession and drive purpose-driven success. And the result of that is being able to do more of the things you love with the people you love most. That message is very, very catered to a specific individual. Could you guess who that individual is?
Yes.
Who?
Well, like you.
More times than not, the avatar is actually you. More times than not. So you've got to be able to, like, our focus, my focus on the people that I want to serve are people that are aligned with my vision, with my mission, my values. Stephen Covey says best, you hang out with the five people you hang out with most, you're the direct reflection of. Well, it doesn't have to stop there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to stop there. Make that really clear. So like I might work with an organization and really help them out with that, because you should be making decisions. I mean, we've had this happen before, Zach, where I had a 5-time New York Times best-selling author who had been on Oprah that was approaching us to work with us. You'd never guess what I said.
No.
You're glad you weren't on the Zoom meeting, because I actually swore. But I basically told them to go dig their own. No, I'm kidding. Not to dig their own grave. But I did. I said no. And here's why. Because it was very evident that another part of our mission, vision, value is that we're going to take a people over profits approach. Okay. We don't make just based on money decisions. Hey, we love cash flow, but I talk about it in my best-selling book, and it's not a New York Times best-selling book, by the way. It's an Amazon bestseller. You can actually go to from Addict, the number 2, from Addict to bestsellingauthor.com and get the book for free. There's no upsells anywhere. Absolutely not. You get the book for free.
Go get it. Like
you get.
I'm telling you now, I'm gonna go get it first off, because Bryan, I haven't read your book yet, and I feel bad about that. But no, but I do know the premise of what you talk about, which is those 4 pillars. And his 4 pillars, guys, is spot on. And I'm telling you, like, in Bryan, by the way, even though he hired me as a coach way back when, like, it was like I learned so much from Bryan. Like, he hired me for Facebook ads, right? Like, that was really the purpose behind it, and that's fine. But I learned a lot from the way Bryan does, how he conducts his life and how he makes decisions. And so a lot of decisions that I've been making are reflecting what I've learned from Bryan, which is to remain true to my own value system. And so what his 4, I'm going to tell everyone what I know of your 4 pillars.
Oh yeah. Unpack, bro.
Okay. All right. So he's got these 4 pillars to, to wealth or to success?
I call it the 4 pillars of wealth.
Right. Because wealth is more than just money. Wealth is well-being.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So the 4 pillars, I'm going to do my best here. I know what number 4 is. That one's easy. Yeah. But the first one is time.
It's your most valuable asset. Yeah.
Yeah. So time, which, think about it. Time is the thing you can never get back. Right now, I just lost a moment of time, and there's no way of rewinding. There's no way of getting that back. It's done. Right. That is the most valuable asset. And it's also the thing that you need to manage the most, because that is the number one thing. The second thing is health. Okay. Because without your health, you're nothing. Right.
You don't have as much time. Don't have as much time if you don't have as much health.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, unpack that a little bit. What does that mean?
Well, again, like, time being the most valuable asset that we have, health is this, I would say, the second, because if you're not healthy, you don't have as much time. Okay. The third, do you remember what the third is? Relationships. Now, health comes first. Why? Because if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself, it's hard to have healthy relationships with others. But the most enriching, anything worth anything comes with relationship. Your relationship with God should be the most powerful relationship that you could ever have. And I could go into a whole unpacking of that, but I'm not a preacher. Okay. And then the third is cash flow. We should be living in abundance. Okay. Poverty is not of God. Poverty is of the other one that we call him Lucy. Okay. And so, but cash flow helps support you buy back your time. And that time can, lead to being more generous with your time and your relationships. Cash flow is also going to help you make healthier decisions. When you're broke, it's really hard to make, 1, good decisions, and 2, to not feel stressed out. And cortisol is one of those really, really, really damaging things. And I've been there. I've been stressed out about money. Okay. It's not a fun place to be. And it doesn't breed health. Okay.
But what's interesting, here's what's interesting about the 4 pillars that you have and the order in which they are, because
Right.
it's so let's just recap real quick. So we've got time, health, relationships, cash flow. And what's interesting is you cannot focus first on cash flow, which is a mistake that I have fallen into more times than I'd like to admit.
And I
right?
still do, but that's why you need the mission, vision, values, because it's got to
Yeah.
keep you on course.
Yeah, because
Like a plane goes off course a lot of the time. The pilot needs to keep it straight, and the only way that the pilot can do that is by having a clear, definitive on where they're going. That's how you do it, is with mission, vision, value.
well, and those first three pillars help you generate the cash. Like if you want to prioritize cash flow, then prioritize those first three pillars. The cash flow will come and will then help support you maximize the first three pillars. It's like a positive cycle.
Well, here was the thing. Coming back to that New York Times bestselling author and her team, I literally told them, look, I came into the world buck ass naked, and I'm leaving just as fucking naked. Like, I can't bring everything with me. I got nothing wrong with living a healthy, happy life. And I was literally in a basement that was like, how do you stay on course with all? D just asked. D, you don't. We're not perfect. We're human. We're going to fall. Yeah. But that's why clarity comes into the picture. That's why writing these things down are so important. Like, I know my mission, vision, values inside and out, but it started with writing it down. If you would like to go through a process to learn how to do that, I don't have a link for that or anything like that, but if you drop something in the comments or you message me or Zach, we would happily talk with you about putting together some sort of, how do I start this process tomorrow? Message me. I would happily spend some time with you and we can work that out. I will give you an hour of my time to start. Yeah. I'll give you an hour of my time to start. And anybody else in here that wants an hour of my time to start, you're welcome to that. Yeah. And then we can discuss more thereafter. But I would be more than happy to help you frame a mission, vision, value. And first of all, how about do this? Go really simply to www.FromAddict to the letter 2. Okay, From Addict to Best-Selling Author. I'll try to put it in the comments after this too. From Addict to bestsellingauthor.com. Yeah. You get the book. I've got one chapter in it. It's chapter number 1 out of 21 chapters. It's I think 21 success secrets from inspiring people around the world. I co-wrote it with Dr. Izdihar Jamil. I have not written a full book yet. I just knew I had to start somewhere, right? And I'm still on a journey with that. And one day, who knows? Maybe it is a New York Times bestselling book. Maybe I'll meet that New York Times bestselling author on Oprah again. Who knows? But we'll see what happens. But get that. It should help you, okay? And it also comes with the only up thing that happens is up in value. I am not upselling anything. You're not going to get charged anything. You're going to get a video book. You're going to get an audio book. If you go through all the steps, it'll take you through Messenger. And then not only that, but I also, over the next course of the few days, I'm going to introduce you to my podcast called Convert on Command. And I want to encourage you to go check that out because I'm interviewing really cool people over there they are sharing their entrepreneur freedom secrets, their business leader secrets. And like, if you think I'm cool, I'm interviewing some, like, I've had the CEO of Mind Valley on there. Like, it's been a fun journey. Okay. Like there's so much cool, fun stuff that's happening over there. Yeah. Hey, Guy, you're more than welcome to message me, my man. Like I will give anybody who wants an hour, and then we can kind of go from there. Yeah. Awesome. Love it. So we have some questions here. And maybe we'll have time to get into your, creating an offer and then getting into the deliverable system. But let's see what some of the questions. So Caroline here has a good one. What's your best technique around maintaining day-to-day focus on the jobs that move the needle? The best technique? I think the best technique comes on I start my weekly. Oh, thank you. I think it's Marielle. Marielle? Is that how you say it? Marielle? I think so. I have an auntie Marielle too. And so, yeah, thank you so much, Marielle. I'll say Marielle. You can say, she's Zach awesome. Right, or Bryan was right. But yeah, thank you very much. But where were we? We were talking about the focus of the day-to-day, what moves the needle. I think that the day-to-day starts with the preparation of the week. And so, like, if you read The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People by Stephen Covey, he talks about beginning with the end in mind. Okay, like we're talking about, if this might sound twisted, but actually writing out your eulogy. But I went a step further. What is my son going to say? What is my wife going to say? What are my colleagues going to say? These are what, not just what they're going to say, but what are they going to feel? Because we've all been to a funeral where they're like, yeah, that guy was a nice guy. But what are they not only going to say, but what are they going to feel? And so I go that far, and then I'm trying to back engineer that. Okay. And can we go even further? What is the impact of all of this going to be in 20 years after I'm gone, 50 years, 100 years after I'm gone? Could you actually...
Sorry. So Caroline's question of what to do on a day-to-day to
moving
focus.
The needle for the day-to-day to focus. That all of this is important. Trust me.
No, I know. I want to emphasize it. So it's not, let's say what it is not first, real quick.
Cool.
Right. So it's not, put everything else in life to the side so that you can just do sales calls, right? That's not what it is. So, okay, sorry. So you start with the end in mind. I love this idea of writing eulogies and what people are feeling after you pass. And
you have to draw guardrails. Actually, Caroline, you actually drew one with me. Whether we're in a Slack channel together because we've got a little venture on our own here. You drew a line with me. I asked you earlier this week. I'm gonna call you out. This is so much fun. But yeah, I asked you, hey, Caroline, you want to jump on a call with us after this session that we have here, this live thing? And you were all like, I have me time, and I'm trying to keep that, separate. You got the blinders on, right? Which is really good. You set up guardrails, and I respect that because I got to play that game too, right? Yeah. And it's beginning with the end in mind, and then also like every week you map it out. Give me one sec.
I love this. Man, this is so perfect. This interview is just lined up with everything we've done in the past few weeks. It's just falling. Every little piece is coming together here.
Full Focus Planner. This is by Michael Hyatt. Zach uses a different one. But my week is planned out like a week in advance, but my year is planned out. My quarter is planned out. My month is planned out. My week is planned out with intentionality of beginning with the end in mind. So all of those things, they reflect this. Now, here's the thing that I'll say. I follow this as best as I can. But I also I have to be careful though, because you got to keep an open heart and open mind, because religion is not good. You can get too religious over this and lose opportunities because you didn't keep an open heart and an open mind. So I will keep an open heart and open mind. And I guarantee you that every day that I have in here, they don't always end. Actually, none of them end the way that I actually mapped it out. Yeah. But there was enough focus in here for me to move the needle every single day and get the big 3 done, get the biggest things that needed to get done, get this done. And I can't tell you how many opportunities came up today with the fact that, hey, we missed 2 meetings. And what did I get done while those 2 meetings? You might be disheartened during that time. And I'm just like, we'll make that up later. God must have had a different idea for this right now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the needle over here. Well, let's go over to LinkedIn and let's work on Octopus and let's get this thing going over here. Let's get this fire going over here. Yeah.
And actually we had a sales call this morning that didn't show. And, we could have ended that and gone on to other tasks, but we felt it was important to kind of reconvene and reestablish our motivations, our intentions. And we had a nice conversation this morning, which helped to set us up for a solid sales call later in the day. Right. And so anyway, yeah, I agree 100%. Very, very cool. So I have another one from Caroline here. Would love to chat a little bit about great ways to connect with mentors that are substantially ahead of where you want to be. How do you connect? Now, Bryan, you have a skill here. How do you connect with people that are significantly at a higher level than you are?
I love what you're doing. And instead of asking them the question, how can I add value to what you're doing? I just do something for them. I just do it. I just do it. Hey, I love your work. I'm so inspired by what you're doing. Here, I'm willing to work for free. I already started. Here, check this out.
Can you give us an example? Like, who was that guy we were working with the financials, the financial MLM?
Oh, Steve Holbrook.
Yeah,
Was it Steve
wasn't he an example of that?
Yeah, I mean, he was as an example that he's tied in with Ed Milet and those guys. And yeah, I've done a lot of work for him, which that one, honestly, if I'm being real right now, that didn't lead to anywhere, just frustration. But but other times, like the $1 million tour bus one,
Yeah.
dude, all I did was unpack my story on a tour bus that night. I was around a dinner table because I was a part of another book that I was featured in. And we were having this big event around this book, and I was with the tour manager at the table, and I just knew that I was jamming with this guy, and he was one of the leaders in this organization. And I just, at the table, I was like, dude, I really love your guys' approach. I love what you guys do, like inside and out. And he just looked at me, and he just felt the sincerity about it. And he's like, we're actually looking for a guitar player. I was like, yeah. I'll do that. But ultimately it led to hanging out on the tour bus, and I unpacked my story, which is probably the worst sales pitch ever, because I used to be a crack addict. I used to be this, I used to do, and now I just want to help people. Hire me. No, but I literally said, you guys have a mentorship program. How can, I'd love to, like, I've got all these skill sets. I will just jam with the guy. I'll come out for nothing. And sure enough, they invited me to go on tour with them for, like, they couldn't pay me, but they said they'd feed me. And I went on tour with them, and it went so well that I think a month or so later, they gave me a contract. And that was that. I mean, another one is Chris Rochelo from North Node Solutions. That he posted something, and I jumped on it, and he said it was a paid gig. And I said, I refuse. I just want to do it for you. Yeah. I will do it for free just to be able to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we learned from that, we learned so much, an unbelievable amount, you guys, having free coaching from someone that we've always looked up to.
And he literally owes us still. He owes us a deal. He knows it, and I can't wait to cash it in.
Yeah, so that's a great way to connect with people, guys. You just do something for them. Another one that I know you're really good at, Bryan, is just asking them if they want an interview, because who doesn't love being interviewed, right?
Yeah. Like podcasts or the bomb.com, like it's a great way to, and I now leverage other interviews. Like I've gotten to the point now, hey, I interviewed so-and-so, I know you guys are connected. Like I would love to frame your story. Our team will actually edit the content and curate the content, and you can repurpose it however you want. So we're just giving. Go givers, go giver, bro. And so I will interview them. I will frame them in the best light humanly possible. I'm going to ask them questions that I want to learn for myself, because I know everybody else is going to want to know those things. I'm going to get, a little bit smarter and more efficient and effective by hanging out with these guys for about 40 minutes to an hour. And then my team cuts it up, curates it. If I feel I need to go back and listen to it to kind of soak it in, I'll do that. And then we give them the content, and then I repurpose that content and I put it out there. It's just, that's where you guys get the inside with that as well.
So here's what I want to do. Okay. Because, man, Bryan, you're just so full of awesomeness. So what I want to do, I actually think it would be a good idea, Paul, and let me know if you agree, but I'd love to have you on again next month. Because
we're making this some sort of regular occurrence. I don't know. You guys are putting me in the hot seat. There's people here. Why would you ask me this now? I'm just kidding.
Oh no, because think about it. We only kind of dove into your story. We barely scraped the surface of creating a message that converts, and we still have two other things that you talk about a lot. So I would love, I think, next month to have you on again on the third week of the month, and we dive into, we get recap on the message, we dive into the offer side, and then we dive into the deliverable. I think that would be super awesome if you're okay with that. And guys, let us know in the comments if you love that idea. I know like D and Guy and maybe even Caroline and Marielle, guys, definitely take advantage of Bryan's offer. Don't let that pass by. The guy is a rock star of a coach. I'll tell you what, he will help you set priorities straight. And in a way that I struggle with, right? The way I tend to coach is like, all right, let me see your ad. Do this, right?
I'll tell you, we need thanks, Dee. Thank you. We need every type of person. I wouldn't be able to work on the level that I am if it was not for Zach. I would not be operating on the level that I am today if it was not for the way that he was designed. Unlike any other human being, fearfully, wonderfully made, unique in a vision. Same with Paul, same with everybody here, same with everybody that's in these comments, everybody that's watching right now. And if you've never been told that, you need to understand that.
Yeah.
And you also need to understand that you're loved. Marielle says, we love you. We love you too. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful Friday, a wonderful weekend. And we'll bring Bryan back next month. Next week, it's going to be me and Paul again. And we're going to dive into another awesome, amazing topic. We've got some really big stuff coming up here. So have a wonderful weekend, guys. And we'll see you next time.
Lots of love, peace, and chicken grease.